Welcome to Weekly News Highlights. The Ministry of Health continued its awareness campaign against the coronavirus COVID-19, launching a booth at Kuwait International Airport to inform individuals about developments regarding the disease. This is a part of the ministry's effort to provide travelers with health instructions recommended by doctors and experts of the Ministry of Health to prevent infection. More details with Hadil Fahed.
The Information Office booth of the Ministry of Health inaugurated awareness at Kuwait International Airport T4 with the aim of providing travelers with health instructions recommended by doctors and experts of the Ministry of Health to prevent coronavirus.
We are here in Kuwait Airport T4 in the educational urgent campaign for coronavirus. We are keen to raise the awareness regarding the virus and educating all passengers, everybody here in the airport. Since yesterday we are here, and as you see in the report, all the employees in Ministry of Health, from doctors, nurse staff, and also educational employees are there, and educating people, giving them the brochure which contain the information from WHO, how to avoid viral respiratory infection, and how to take a precaution while being in the airport, while traveling, and what to do exactly if they feel sick, if they have some symptoms suggesting viral infection.
Passengers should follow instructions to avoid getting infected with the coronavirus.
Advises for people or passenger before going to airport, if they feel sick or tired for any reason, they have to postpone their flight. And if they are in the airport, they should avoid crowded places as much as possible, and even avoid close contact with any person with cold or flu-like symptoms. Also, they have to cover nose and mouth when coughing or sneezing with a tissue or a flexed elbow. And also they have to clean and keep the hand hygiene, clean hands with soap and water or alcohol-based hand rub.
The educational awareness will continue throughout the holiday period until the return of all travelers of their homeland.
The ministry's emergency team, led by the Minister of Trade and Industry Khalid Al-Rodhan, launched a campaign to ensure that the outlets comply with the price set by the ministry. Minister Al-Rodhan stressed that the ministry monitors all markets and outlets in Kuwait, sending by which a message to pharmacies and other outlets. Hadil Fahed has more.
The Minister of Commerce and Industry Khalid Al-Rodhan has turned more than 20 pharmacies spread across the country, including Kuwait International Airport, where he issued a decision to close more than 12 pharmacies after it was confirmed by the inspection team that carried out field tours of the exploitation of these pharmacies for citizens and residents by not applying the ministry's decision regarding setting prices for face masks and medical supplies.
The Ministry of Commerce and Industrial has issued a law that the masks doesn't increase in price and stays in the fair price for everyone in Kuwait. So basically we were going for nearly every pharmacy in Kuwait. The Ministry of Commerce was trying to check that the prices the ministry issued are going all around the country, and that there is no any places are trying to use this crisis for raising the price. Our aim as a ministry is to keep the price in the range of everyone, and that the masks are available for everyone. And if there is any issue, in the Ministry of Commerce, we have a hotline which is 135, and we have a WhatsApp which is 55 135 135. Any person could have the complaint, and in a matter of minutes, we will try our best to help him with any issues that he's facing.
Inspection campaigns will continue throughout the week around the clock, and implementation of the instructions of His Highness Prime Minister Sheikh Sabah Al Khalid, taking into account the interests of citizens and residents and providing all the requirements in real prices, and not to allow price manipulation at this sensitive time.
The Director General of the World Health Organization, or the WHO, Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, says all countries need to make preparations for possible cases of the coronavirus disease, known as COVID-19, as new confirmed cases reported in regions outside China exceeded those in China on Tuesday and Wednesday. Tedros said at a press conference in Geneva that several countries have reported 0 new cases for over 2 weeks, showing that positive action in the early phase can contain the spread of the virus, but it does not mean new cases will not arise. According to the WHO chief, every country needs to make preparations to discover and quarantine patients in time, trace close contacts, provide quality clinical nursing, and prevent the viral outbreak in hospitals and communities. The governor in Turkey's southeastern province of Hatay said an airstrike by Syrian government forces in Syria's northwest Idlib region killed 33 Turkish soldiers and wounded others. The governor also said none of the remaining wounded soldiers were in critical condition. Turkey's communications director Fahrettin Altun said that in retaliation, all known Syrian regime targets were being fired on by Turkish air and land support units. Earlier, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has warned that Turkey would launch a full-scale offensive to repel Syrian forces unless they pulled back. He held an emergency meeting with staff to discuss the attack, which raised the military death toll to 54 so far this month. As per the request of Minister of Health, Sheikh Dr. Bassel Al-Sabah, a delegation from the World Health Organization visited Kuwait. After evaluating the procedures taken by Kuwait to combat the spread of coronavirus COVID-19 in the country, the delegation held a press conference. More details in the following report by Hiba Abdurrahman.
As part of the continuous efforts exerted by the government in general and the Ministry of Health in particular, Minister of Health Sheikh Dr. Bassel Sabah has invited delegation from the World Health Organization or WHO to evaluate all the procedures taken by the ministry concerning the coronavirus. After detailed meetings, the ministry organized the press conference for the delegation according to its transparent policy that the ministry follows.
It's very important that Kuwait gets the WHO, first of all, to see whether they're doing the right thing or not. Secondly, if they have the support of WHO, I think the social media and the people who are criticizing the work of the ministry would have to fall in line and believe what's happening. So I think it's a good move.
I'm really very pleased, to come to Kuwait as the first country in the region to be visited by myself and the team coming from Cairo. We had a meeting with His Excellency the Minister of Health and his team. We were explained about the steps and the actions they have taken from the first day this disease is announced to be occurring in China, and from the first day the first case was reported in Kuwait. My colleagues in the regional office and headquarters WHO Geneva have been on regular follow-up and contact with their counterpart in the Ministry of Health. And we are getting on regular basis updates about the number of the cases reported, other relevant details, which reflects a very pure transparency from Kuwait healthcare system. It is really appreciated.
The delegation's visit to Kuwait is the first in the region and will be followed by visits to other countries as part of the cooperation between the organization and all countries to combat the virus.
Director of the World Health Organization's Regional Office for the Eastern Mediterranean, Dr. Ahmed Al-Mandhari, commended Kuwait's concerned authorities for containing the outbreak of the emerging novel coronavirus called COVID-19. In a press conference held by the Ministry of Health on the sidelines of the organization's delegation visit to follow up on the ministry's actions, Dr. Al-Mandahari acclaimed efforts made by the country's government in implementing the organization's recommendations regarding the spread of COVID-19. Al-Mandahari thanked Kuwait's government for its tireless work in response to the outbreak, as it is one of the signatories of the 2005 International Health Regulations and is working to fulfill its obligations, including responding to early detection of public health happenings fast. The organization's delegation conducted a field tour on the quarantine places in Kuwait at Jabr al-Ahmed al-Sabah Hospital to grasp closely the procedures to undertake. The United States signed a historic deal with Taliban insurgents that could pave the way toward a full withdrawal of foreign soldiers from Afghanistan over the next 14 months and represents a step towards ending the 18-year-long war. The deal was signed in the Qatari capital Doha by U.S. Special Envoy Zalami Khalilzad and Taliban political chief Mullah Abdul Ghani Baradar. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo was on hand to witness the ceremony. U.S. Defense Secretary Mark Esper meanwhile traveled to Kabul on a visit that officials and experts said was aimed at reassuring the Afghan government about the United States' commitment to the country. Hundreds of refugees stormed a border crossing in Turkey in an attempt to get to Europe one day after a Turkish official said the borders had been thrown open. The move comes as a response to the escalating war in Syria, where 33 Turkish soldiers were killed by Russian-backed Syrian government troops. Moscow and Ankara traded blame over Thursday's strike in northwest Syria, the deadliest attack on Turkish forces in nearly 30 years. The UN Security Council held an emergency meeting to try to avert open conflict between Russia and NATO member Turkey. The prospect of a new migration crisis caused alarm in European countries, already contemplating restrictions on internal borders and public gatherings to fight the coronavirus COVID-19. The National Health Commission said the cure rate of the COVID-19 disease in China continued to rise as more people were cured and discharged from hospitals. Hosting a press conference in Beijing, the Commission spokesperson said that data showed signs for improvement of the epidemic situation, and the number of discharged patients who have recovered from the COVID-19 disease has exceeded 40,000 across China. He added a total of 41,625 people had been discharged from hospitals in the 31 provincial-level regions and the Xinjiang Production and Construction Corps, while 35,329 patients are still receiving treatment. Iraq's bitterly divided parliament postponed a vote of confidence in Prime Minister-designate Mohammed Alawi's government for a second time, as political wrangling continued ahead of a looming deadline. Parliament Speaker Mohammed Halbousi said the crunch vote, which had already been delayed last week for a lack of quorum, would now be held today. The deadline for lawmakers to end a protracted political vacuum and agree on a new government or see President Barham Saleh designate a premier unilaterally. Failure to go ahead with the vote could also trigger a call for mass protests from populist cleric Muqtada Sadr, whose supporters from the largest bloc in parliament and who has demanded the lawmakers approve Alawi's government. Iraq has been without a government since Alawi's predecessor Adil Abdel Mahdi quit under pressure from the streets 2 months ago. According to official data, the COVID-19 disease has sickened more than 86,000 people globally and killed 2,991. The total number of confirmed cases on the Chinese mainland reached just under 80,000, and 2,870 have died of the disease. The total number of discharged patients amounted to 41,625. A number of countries outside China are reporting more confirmed cases, with some countries, including Ireland, Luxembourg, and Ecuador, reporting their first case of COVID-19. South Korea confirmed 586 more cases, raising the total number of infections to 3,736, by far the largest outside China, and the death toll stood at 17. Iran reported 978 confirmed cases, with 54 deaths and 175 cured. In Japan, 955 cases have been confirmed, with 705 of them from the virus-hit Diamond Princess cruise ship. A total of 12 deaths have been reported in the country. Meanwhile, Italy has been hardest hit in Europe, with its 1,128 confirmed cases of COVID-19. A total of 29 people have died of the disease, and 50 have recovered. Turkey shot down 2 Syrian warplanes over Idlib and struck a military airport well beyond its front lines in a sharp escalation of its military operations following the death of dozens of Turkish soldiers last week. Ankara has ramped up its attacks, including drone strikes against the Russian-backed Syrian forces since Thursday, when 33 Turkish soldiers were killed in an airstrike by Damascus. It has already deployed thousands of troops and military vehicles in northwest Syria's Idlib province in the last month to stem advances by Syrian regime forces, which have displaced 1 million people close to Turkey's southern border. Defense Minister Hulusi Akar said in the last 4 days, Turkish forces destroyed 8 helicopters, 103 tanks, 72 howitzers, rocket launchers, a drone, and 6 air defense systems. Akar dubbed Turkey's operation its 4th incursion in Syria in 4 years, Operation Spring Shield. The Health Ministry announced that 10 COVID-19 cases were registered in Kuwait in the last 24 hours, bringing the total up to 56 cases by the time of this recording. Ministry Assistant Undersecretary Dr. Buthaina Al-Mudhaf told the Daily Briefing that the new cases are for patients who were in Iran. Dr. Al-Mudhaf affirmed that all cases are for Kuwaitis, adding that all of them are in a stable condition and recovering. The ministry official confirmed that citizens currently placed in quarantine are in good health, with no signs of the COVID-19 virus, adding that once they are found to be free of the virus after conducting several medical checks, they are allowed to return home. Dr. Al-Mudhaf indicated that providing additional quarries is due to future needs and plan of evacuation. The ministry official also called on everyone who is under domestic quarantine to cooperate with the medical team in order to preserve the safety of society and avoid legal accountability. Dr. Al-Mudhaf called on citizens and residents to abide by the decisions of the Ministry of Health and avoid gatherings. For his part, Health Ministry spokesperson Dr. Abdullah Al-Sened said that there are precautionary measures taken towards passengers arriving in the country before entering Kuwait. The Ministry of Health continues its awareness campaign to inform the public about the developments of the current COVID-19 outbreak in the country. The ministry reiterated calls on everyone to follow official news outlets and social media accounts for all the accurate news regarding the issue. More with Hadil Fahed.
Follow-up to local developments and passed on the measures are being taken by the Ministry of Health in cooperation with the relevant authorities in the country to reduce the spread of the coronavirus. The Ministry of Health is keen to keep track of followers of all developments through the official social networking sites of the ministry.
We believe in everyone's right to know, and that's why in the Ministry of Health we are trying to communicate with the public on a daily basis through various ways. In addition to updating information through social media, due to its great impact in delivering our messages to the largest numbers of followers of all ages.
The Ministry of Health calls on citizens and residents not to turn to unofficial websites.
I would like to take this opportunity to invite you all to follow the latest news and updates regarding the coronavirus through the official accounts of the Ministry of Health on social media. Kindly try not to circulate messages from uncertain source.
The Ministry of Health is keen to provide its health services and looks forward to the certification and comfort of every citizen and resident on the land of Kuwait in the health aspect, and therefore works to monitor the news firsthand.
Chinese authorities are moving to expand the scope of protected wildlife and will revoke licenses for wildlife breeding organizations found to be breeding for consumption. The COVID-19 virus is believed to have originated in a market selling wildlife in the central Chinese city of Wuhan late last year. It has infected about 80,000 people and killed more than 2,700, with the vast majority in China. Those caught eating protected animals would be fined up to 20,000 yuan and up to 2,000 yuan for non-protected animals, while shops serving protected meat face fines of up to 50,000 yuan. A landmark deal between the United States and the Taliban aimed at ending the US's longest war may already be facing obstacles as Afghan President Ashraf Ghani publicly rejected the timeline for a prisoner swap with the Taliban. President Ghani objected to arrangements within the deal that would see the Afghan government release 5,000 Taliban prisoners as a condition for direct talks between the armed group and the government. Meanwhile, the Taliban now controls or holds influence over more Afghan territory than at any point since 2001, and has carried out nearly daily attacks against military outposts throughout the country. Egypt rejected Ethiopia's recent statement justifying its absence from the talks over its giant Nile River Dam project and its decline to sign a deal to settle the dispute. The Egyptian Ministries of Foreign Affairs and Water Resources stated that Ethiopia's failure to attend the February 27th and 28th ministerial meeting with Egypt and Sudan in the US deliberately hindered the course of negotiations. The statement cast doubt on Ethiopia's explanation that it needed more time to consider after more than 5 years of being fully engaged in intensified negotiations that tackled all dimensions and details of the issue. A press conference recently took place at the Kuwait Medical Association in Jabriya, aiming at creating awareness among the public about COVID-19. The conference further focuses at educating society about how they can better protect themselves from the virus. Ghenwa Jabouri has more.
A press conference that recently took place at the Kuwait Medical Association in Jabriya and attended by senior medical experts is aimed at creating awareness amongst the public about COVID-19 or the coronavirus. The conference further aims at educating society about how they can better protect themselves from the virus.
Actually, the COVID-19 is highly infectious, but it's mainly mild disease. About 80% of cases are mild cases, 14% are moderate, only about 5%, 5 to 4% are severe. And the mortality rate is about, until now, it's about 2%, and it's expected to be reduced.
According to medical experts, Kuwait is medically advanced and well equipped to contain the coronavirus. And while it is important for society to remain calm during these potentially trying times, medical experts, however, advise the public to be aware of their surroundings, practice good hygiene, such as frequently washing one's hands with soap and water, or to use the sanitizer gel, and to keep a distance from people who are unwell.
Regarding the COVID-19 or the coronavirus, let's talk about the coronavirus as a family of viruses. It's a very old viruses. It has been here for thousands of years. It infects millions of people every year, and it will cause usually the common cold symptoms. However, in the last 20 years, we have 3 severe types of coronavirus. In 2002, it was the SARS, and it infected around 9,000 people, mainly in China, and around 10% of them died from the virus. The last case was reported in 2004. We didn't have any new case after that. Then in 2012, a new coronavirus called the MERS-CoV, or the Middle East coronavirus, which started in the Gulf region, and it infects around so far 2,500, and still in between we are getting sporadic cases here and there.
I would actually start with assuring everybody that what the Ministry of Health and all the other parties in Kuwait, the governmental parties in Kuwait did and doing, it is actually way more than what the WHO even suggests or recommend. We've exceeded that a lot. They prepared themselves for the larger number, as you said, and so far everything's under control. The proof is basically the numbers are much less. We are almost at a plateau. So we have one case today, yesterday zero new cases, I mean, and so far we have 0 mortality, so nobody died, thank God. And this all prove that Kuwait is well equipped, and we did very well so far.
Medical experts attending the press conference further stressed that society should not panic and that they should rather feel safe, explaining that the Ministry of Health and other governmental bodies in Kuwait are well equipped to tackle the situation if Kuwait witnesses a spread of COVID-19.
According to the United Nations Refugee Agency, Greece has no legal right to stop accepting asylum seeker applications. Greece clashed with 10,000 asylum seekers coming through Turkey this weekend after Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan opened its borders for migrants to get into the European Union. The Greek Prime Minister responded by announcing his country would no longer accept asylum applications for a period of 1 month. The UN's refugee agency said all states have a right to control their borders and manage irregular movements, but at the same time should refrain from the use of excessive force and maintain systems for handling asylum requests in an orderly manner. Australian Associated Press, or the AAP, an 85-year-old wire service, said it will close its new production and sub-editing business from June after succumbing in its battle to compete with free online publishers. The AAP had for decades provided media organizations with first account reports and breaking news on topics ranging from politics to business and sports. However, over time, the number of mastheads relying on the AAP newswire had dwindled, making the business unsustainable and prompting media shareholders Nine Entertainment Co. Holdings, the Australian unit, and Australian Community Media to cut their ties. In Syria, the UN aid chief said relief operations to meet the needs of nearly 1 million people who fled recent fighting in northwest Syria's Idlib region have been overwhelmed as the United States and Britain pledged to step up aid efforts. While Syrian regime forces fought Turkey-backed rebels in Idlib, US and UN officials visited Turkey's Hatay border province to view efforts to cope with one of the biggest humanitarian crises of Syria's 9-year civil war. Mark Lowcock, UN Undersecretary General for Humanitarian Affairs, said the United Nations is scaling up assistance after agreeing with Turkish authorities to double the number of trucks it sends across the border to 100 each day. Kelly Craft, the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, who was also inspecting the relief efforts, announced $108 million of additional funding for the operations. Furthermore, Turkey hosts 3.6 million Syrians and has closed its border, saying it cannot take in more migrants. That's it for tonight. Join us again next week for more weekly news highlights.